Hello, this is John Miller, the creator of this podcast. Now, the rest of Everest is probably the most in-depth look at just what it takes to climb the world's highest peak. But keep in mind that it is a series. And if you're checking out the podcast for the first time, do yourself a favor, go back to episode 0 and watch everything in order. That's really the right way to enjoy it. Thanks so much.
This is the Rest of Everest video podcast, an almost unabridged expedition experience. Episode 77, finally heading towards Everest.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Rest of Everest video podcast. I'm John Miller. I want to again welcome back to the show Scott Jacobs out in California. How's it going, Scott?
It's going well, John. Thanks for having me.
Scott just got back from vacation, so he's well rested. And spent the week on the beach in Mexico. Can't complain there.
I really can't.
Scott, it was just almost about a year ago just a year ago exactly that we were heading to Kathmandu. And it's hard to believe it's already been a year. It's
gone by fast, but look back upon that year with fondness.
And it's so great to be able to go back through the podcast now and get to revisit all this stuff and take everyone with us. And definitely had all of you on our minds when we were out there, so it's great to finally show all of this footage. Let's head up to some altitude real quick, and let's get back on the road. So here we go. All right, so this is a little bit different perspective on the lake. We were up on the pass last week, and now this week we're down at water level. I thought it was pretty interesting to see some of the waterfall. It looks very different from what we have in Colorado and the U.S. And all along the shore here, there's bones. These are all like yak bones. And quite similar to the way it was in Nepal, along the highway, there's a lot of trash. Because there's no trash pickup.
Yeah, there's no sanitation service.
And do you remember this, Scott?
I do remember this. I couldn't tell you the name.
Yeah. Well, there's these little chortens, every now and then along the road, and don't have a clue what the name of it was, but it was picturesque in its own way, and most of the places where there's a nice view for tourists, then there's going to be some locals kind of hanging out there, hoping to make a few dollars by having you take their picture and whatnot.
Now, this was interesting to me because, along the Friendship Highway, they are conducting improvements and construction, but wow, the conditions these guys are working in are just incredible. I mean, they're large machinery, but a lot of the work is done by hand, and just different than what you would see, in the United States along a roadside.
And yeah, we are on a road, but it's still kind of a wild place. And what we came across here was that boulder right in the middle of the road. Obviously, it had just fallen before we had arrived there. The Friendship Highway really is a feat of engineering. It's literally just carved out of a lot of these hillsides, and it's in really good condition out there. Out here, it'd be kind of probably considered a four-wheel drive road.
Do you have water?
And landslides happen.
I'd forgotten just how snowy it was. It was coming down on us. Not a serious accumulation, but just a reminder that, man, we're at altitude. This is Tibet. It's cold, rainy, snowing.
Yeah, we're probably at about 15,000 feet here almost. And this is the little town of, I believe it's Gyangtse?
Gyangtse.
Spelled with a G.
Yeah, like G-Y, Gyangtse.
And this is we'll get to see more of this town tomorrow. Next week. But this was pretty neat because the hotel was actually really nice, but along with every hotel that we came across in Tibet, none of them are heated.
Typical of the accommodations in Tibet. Yeah, there is no central heat. There's no wall heating. There's no steam heat. You're cold, which is not a big deal. You kind of just get used to it, learn to deal with it. But as you can see, she just put down 2 big pitchers of hot water. And man, those thermoses just keep it piping hot. I would drink from them 24/7.
Yeah.
It's a way to keep warm.
So this is the fortress on the hill here in this town. Pretty amazing looking place. We do get to go there, and snow really was coming down. Pretty impressive looking.
Pretty impressive place for sure. I remember being impressed. There was a historical standoff between the British and the Tibetans in Gyangtse. It's got a historical significance for sure. But I just like this little area. That fortress wall runs for several hundred meters, and kind of a centerpiece of the town. It was a fun time.
Is there a pharmacy in town?
I like that shot. 3 of you guys just hanging out.
Going for Tibetan noodles.
All right. Tibetan noodles. Awesome. It was so good. Scott and I were talking before we started recording this week's episode that it really was great to hear from Lobsang just recently. I started last week's episode with his email just saying that he was okay, and I was really worried.
Yeah, I was very worried.
Noodles.
What are Tibetan noodles?
Noodles, it's purely Tibetan noodles. We call it amdo tukwa. Yeah, amdo tukwa. Amdo noodles. Tukwa means noodles.
Do you eat them every day?
Yeah, like most of the time, and especially when it is cold.
Yeah.
We used to take it.
Good, they're hot.
Yeah.
It is always cold.
In the summertime, it's really hot.
Oh, is it?
It's too dry.
Yeah.
How hot? How hot in the summer?
Very hot. Really, it's like a withering, what you call withering weather. Mm-hmm. It stings inside your body, really. It's really hot, especially in the western part, like Kailash. It's really hot.
I lived in a place where it was 120 degrees Fahrenheit, Celsius, 20.8.
What's body temperature? Have a little thermometer on you?
I think I left it in the room. Actually, no, I threw it in my bag. So no, very hot. Very hot.
Yeah, Tibetans don't like the heat.
And do you remember the old woman kind of sitting at the table where the camera's located? She came in maybe later, and she'd stick her tongue out at us.
Yeah, you're not quite sure what's going on there. And it turns out that's a greeting.
It's a greeting. I remember reading about this, and kind of like a superstitious local greeting. She's showing you that her tongue's not green, so you're supposed to do the same.
She's not a demon.
Demons have green tongues. I thought that was excellent. I thought that was a lot of fun.
That right there was the 10th Panchen Lama.
Taught so well in the Chinese schools. They know only about the communist,
Right.
socialist, not about democracy, not about autonomy, not about the Tibetan autonomy, and of course Tibetan history. I mean the fact history.
Right.
They don't know. Whatever they have been taught is based on Chinese history, not on Tibetan scriptures. So, even among youngsters, but elders, I mean, they know better than youngsters actually about Tibet.
One of our
Will the government get mad if they see that?
one of our many conversations about you know, the political climate in Tibet and about how
No. For you, it's fine. I think.
you know how
Nobody would notice.
the young Tibetans just, they don't really know their history because they're not taught. The schools are all Chinese, so the history it's all revisionist history. What we're looking at there is tea.
Brewed from the top.
This is, you know, this episode this week is one of those transitional episodes where not a whole lot happens, but this is actually really important. These are the Tibetan noodles. This is some of the best stuff I've ever eaten in my entire life. And Lobsang made fun of us because as soon as this is the first time we had this, and after this day, we ate them every single day. Everywhere we stopped, we asked if we could get Tibetan noodles, and he was kind of making fun of us. He was really pleased at the same time, but he was making fun of us. He's like, "You don't want to try anything else?"
He was pleased because he got to eat it.
So I have to say that the Tibetan noodles were probably the most delicious thing that I'd had on this trip. Do you agree? That the noodles?
Oh, noodles were fantastic. Tibetan noodles for breakfast, wonderful. Thank you. I just said hello as we were leaving, but it's the only Tibetan I know, so I wanted to make a little bit of a connection. Let's go this way. I feel like 100% better.
Oh, you do? Good.
I think it's just all the cigarette smoke. You know, I get pretty allergic to it. And once you start the ball rolling, it just doesn't stop, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of smoking going on everywhere all the time. And also obviously there's no emission restrictions on the vehicles, so.
Well, it doesn't help that I put my face over every butter lamp.
Yeah, all the butter lamp.
Because it smells so good.
But after a while, it really ends up hurting your throat. And it feels like you have almost like a sinus infection. And so one of the cures that I have is I have about 400 cough lozenges, and we'll start using those today on a regular basis. It really helps. And then whatever I don't use, I'm going to give away to climbers at base camp who might not have thought of that. So hopefully that will help them on their climb. One of the things that came out of this morning's breakfast was that they really liked the logo that I have for the podcast. I have it on a patch right here. Had these made in Kathmandu. And this is, you know, I made this logo myself, and this is Mount Everest. These are prayer flags, but this is actually I took from the Tibetan flag. Beneath the flag is actually got some. It has some snow lines on either side down here, which I covered up to kind of make the logo a little bit more unrecognizable as the Tibetan flag, but still retain some of the familiar qualities. But I didn't want to completely use the Tibetan flag, and so although my logo, Lobsang was saying he really likes the logo, and he recognized that it was the Tibetan flag right away. He said, I better not wear it across any of the border crossings. And that he could never get away with wearing this logo because Tibetans aren't allowed to have the Tibetan flag, which is really hard to comprehend, not being able to have your country's flag. But that's one of the many things that we're experiencing here in Tibet, which is really run by the Chinese, and it's really a shame. So I'm not going to wear it across the Friendship Bridge. I'm going to be taking it off. It'll also be far too warm there to wear it. But I'm also probably going to keep it covered up around any of the administration buildings around base camp. We'll just see how it goes, but I made the logo look like this on purpose because I wanted to show the Tibetan flag, because I'm very proud to have spent as much time as I have in Tibet, and I just love this country. I just love it. It's my favorite country on the planet, and it's just so incredible to be here. So that was just one of those little discussions we had this morning at breakfast.
I think that was, I don't know, it's a wise thought. As much as I love being in Tibet, as much as I feel about Tibet, it's run by the Chinese. And, you're definitely in a foreign country with a different set of rules, different set of law.
And it was too bad because I really wanted to give Lobsang a t-shirt, because, I had a few t-shirts on me. And it's just too bad, Just couldn't
it's
do
interesting
it.
that the freedoms we have and, what we want to do, I don't know. It would be easy to overstep or take for granted, I guess.
But it's also just interesting how, the tourists are treated in a completely different fashion. I think I could be wrong here, but I think if a Tibetan is caught with the Tibetan flag, possibly even with a photograph of the Dalai Lama, I think it's 7 years, potential 7-year imprisonment for that offense.
I've read that as well. I've heard that as well. So I don't think you're far off in saying that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Well, next week we're going to get to actually go inside a stupa, and it's one of the rare stupas where I was actually able to photograph inside, so I get to show all of you guys all this really cool stuff. Really excited to show all of that, and we look forward to it. Please continue to stay subscribed, and there's still a lot more to come before we hit base camp, and then once we hit base camp, you're just going to be able to stare and just gaze upon Everest for a while with us, so it's going to be pretty cool. So thanks a lot, Scott.
John, thank you.
And we will catch all of you next week. Bye. The Rest of Everest is downloaded all over the world every week. If you enjoy watching and would like to show your support, then take a look at my website. Aside from having lots of additional blog entries from the expedition updated every week, there's this little donation button on every page. Now, many of you have pressed that button, and your generous contributions are helping to cover my hosting fees. If you haven't donated but would like to, then just contribute any amount. In return, I'll give you access to the video and audio dispatches I sent out while we were actually at Everest. It's pretty interesting stuff. Contribute $25 or more, and I'll even throw in an iPod-compatible version of the film Everest: The Other Side. That's the project the entire podcast here is based on. As always, our announcer is Marlon May, and our music is provided by Wendy Wu. Check her out at wendywu.com. Thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching The Rest of Everest. For more information on the expedition, please visit therestofeverest.com.